Welcome to the Fellas Podcast, the ultimate Formula One podcast for fans by fans, where we discuss all the happenings in the world of Formula One. Now, let's get into it.
Well, fellas, welcome back to a new season of the Formula One show, right? However, before we jump into it, I'd like to say that those that do listen in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can keep up with all things the fellas. So, gentlemen, we've heard about, what's been happening during the off season, quote unquote, and wanted to get your gist on any of the news that you think kind of caught your attention, related to like Lewis, because he's been front and center with a lot of the banter that's been going back and forth.
Yeah.
So, pick anyone. Simon, go for it.
Welcome back, fellas. Right now, it's been a great offseason. There's a lot of hype around what's going to happen. I'm excited. Can't wait to see what Ferrari brings to the table. Can't wait to see what Lewis does. There's a lot of rumors out there. There's a lot of anticipation, a lot of angst around the first couple of races. I think everyone's trying to place their bets on when Lewis wins his first race. I think that's interesting because you can go a whole season without winning a race, but they're putting bets right now on Lewis winning before 7, which was what's his name, Michael Schumacher's record. When he switched teams and went to Ferrari, he was able to win his first race within 7 races. So there's a lot of bets on that going right now. So I'm excited. The rumors are plentiful out there. Lewis is doing a great job of capturing everyone's attention as far as the last day of testing and making sure that he's still up there with the top boys. So what do you guys think?
I think Lewis has really been front and center with critiques and some that are let's say fans of Lewis as well. I've heard comments about how he debuted at Ferrari in that suit, with the overcoat, and some notable people saying, he should just have shown up and drive. And, I think I was kind of surprised to hear that because I'm, watching Formula One, Lewis has always been about fashion. That's one of his things. And he's always come into the paddock in an outfit that, is eye-catching. So I was surprised that there would be people commenting that he should just show up and drive when you're talking about a 7-time world champion and with an asterisk really should have already been 8. Somebody that has proven his mettle, that he can produce. So I was surprised about that. So seeing that, I was like, okay, but like all other seasons, I'm going to wait and watch the first 2 to 3 races to see, because we could speculate, he's going to win a race, but we don't know what the McLaren is going to be like. We don't know what the Red Bull is going to be like. Even though they're evolutions of the car last year, McLaren was strong. Red Bull was fading, but they were still up there. And, we have to see how Lewis has to get to grips with the Ferrari. So my take on it would be, I'm not really focused on him winning a race XYZ at this time. I'm more focused on, can he beat his teammate? That's the start for me. So if he can beat Charles, maybe within the first 3 races and be on top of that, that for me is a good step. Then we'll see how everybody else's cars fall into line and how he can attack with that. That's
interesting comments. Because my little takeaway from that whole thing is that even though they were hyping about how the cars look during testing, right? I think it's like, you're not seeing really what's there. You won't see the real thing until Melbourne, the real race, right? And at the same point, when it comes to talking with Lewis, I think, he's done a strategic move, surrounding himself with critical people that he can rely on to make sure that his back's okay. Mm-hmm. Even though I want to just say that I heard today that the bookies have Lando Norris down to win the World Drivers' Championship this year. Just throwing that out there. But I still think that, we won't see until I think the first 3 races, we will then see, who's really who and what they have to offer, right? And still, Lewis is still going to get some time, need some time, sorry, to get used to the car, right? Did they implement any changes that favor his driving style, right? That type of thing. So it'd be great if he won like the first couple of races, but I won't hang my hat on that. I'll just, I want to see how he progresses as the season goes on. You guys on board with that, or what do you think?
Me, this was just the rumors I was referring to earlier. For me, I want to see how he competes against McLaren and Red Bull, both Lewis and Charles, right? To me, I'm looking for the competition, how they do. Verstappen has already talked about his car not being up to par already. I don't know if he's getting his excuses all lined up just for the first couple of races, but I don't believe that. I think Red Bull is going through testing, probably testing a few things here and there for the new season and trying out new things. So they'll go back to their winning ways. But how's McLaren and how's Ferrari going to really step up this year? And first 10 races to me are very important. I don't want to see a front runner in the first 10 races. I want to see it could be anybody's race, including Lewis, right? Charles is, I want to see him up there as well. I think Charles, it's his time to really put some pressure on Verstappen and his peers, his generation, which is Lando as well. So I will be ecstatic if Lewis wins, but I really want to see how those three manufacturers do the first 10 races.
Yeah. Well, it's like, Ray, what you mentioned about, we're not seeing the true potential of the car. The term is always, everybody sandbags at testing. They're not showing their true potential. Going back to the Braun era, Braun was sandbagged for a while, and then at one point they stepped into the car and were like, "Oh my God, we're showing too much," and then they backed off because everyone started looking at them. But they thought, "Oh, they're running low fuel. It can't be that fast," but it was, because the norm is to sandbag. You're not going to show your cards until Albert Park. Albert Park, when they line up and that race goes on, then you're going to say, "Oh, okay, this was real," or "Wow, they fell off," kind of thing. So I see that. I agree with Simon too. I want to see what the other drivers are doing too, the other teams. I'm curious. I want to see if how Max handles it, and how Max handles it, because the Red Bull was fading, or if you want to flip it the other way, the other Ferrari and McLaren caught up and started to pass them, right? So whichever way you want to look at it. But I also would like to see Lando. I mean, I've started watching the latest season of Drive to Survive, and I understand some of it is showmanship and how it's cut together and stuff, but there's some truth in it. There's a lot of truth in it. And one of the things where I'm up to is that Lando is too nice, and they commented on that, and it's true. And we saw that last year. I remember one of us said it, that if Lewis had a competitive car and was coming up on Max, he would muscle his way through, right? But Lando was still very timid. So I'd like to see Lando step into that ruthlessness, and hey, I'll say it. Because of the way Max drives, I think early in the season, if it does come down to that, Lando's gonna might have to like put the car there so they crash, to teach Max, hey, don't play with me. I'm not that guy. I'm not afraid of you. And even in the interviews, he was, there was something he said, I thought he was going to call to apologize. And I was like, yeah, that you have to put in your back pocket. Push that down. You shouldn't care if he called you to apologize for that crash. What you should be doing is, hey, I'm going to show this guy, right? I'm going to take what's mine. So that's what I'd like to see.
Okay, got you. Well, I think just piggybacking on your last part of your conversation, I think, it was said that they were good, best of friends, right? And if that was accurate, then, the what happened on track, I think it took Lando some time to realize eventually that what's on track is on track, and this friendship, it does not run to the level on track, right? So Max is the driver who he is, and that's basically, what he's going to expect from him going forward. And yeah, because Lewis already did, as you said, Lewis already stood ground to show that, hey, if we're going to crash out, we're going to crash out, right? So who wants to blink first, right? Max is an intimidator, my opinion, on track, and then you got to decide what you're going to do. So.
Well, I just wanted to say this. I hear you on that, but that's what I'm talking about. Years ago, when I was younger, when I was studying martial arts, when we would spar, I would spar with friends of mine that we just got out of work together when we were in high school. And I remember when we went to spar, one of my friends, good friend of mine, and the instructor said, go. And we went to spar. No, before we went, he said go. He was like, okay, this could be easy or whatever. He said go, and we went at it. And he said it. Okay, I guess it's not going to be, because while we were on the mat, we weren't friends. Doesn't mean I'm going to be disrespectful or try to hurt him, but I'm trying to get him, and he's trying to get me,
trying to get those points.
Right. And you're trying to get it on. That's what Lando needs. Like, best of friends, you could do that after. Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher would race hard on the track. And I forgot what race it was, but they raced hard and Mika got him. And I remember the press saying, we saw Michael and Mika after having a beer together and so. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it should be. On track, I'm not having a beer with you. I need to beat you. That's what Lando has to ignite inside of him. That nice guy, get rid of it. And that's the mark of a world champion. The world champions are selfish. They're aggressive, and they're ruthless. Lando needs to ignite that side of him, or develop it if it's not there, really quick, because that's the only way you're going to get on top of Max.
Absolutely. Lando hopefully learned a lesson last year, and he realizes his legacy is in his hand and how he handles Max. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. His legacy in Formula One is how he wins championships, or at least goes after it. And if his legacy is that he was too nice, he's not going to like that at the end of the day. And I'm sure somebody smarter than me had a conversation with him, even at probably during the season last year, and said, hey, you are going to have to be a little bit more aggressive. And it doesn't matter who's in front or who's behind you. You're going to have to be aggressive if you want to win a championship. That's the only way he's going to win. That's the only way, right? It's going to be an interesting season.
F1 is you're a gladiator in a sense. They're ruthless. The team principals are ruthless. They only want to win. And a lot of them, they will win by any means possible, right? They want to win. That's what it is. And that's why it's such a it turns people up and spits out those that are not strong in their mind. If you don't have talent and you don't have a strong mental countenance, you're done. No one's coddling you. And it's not an arena for everyone. And that's what it is. Max is doing what he's supposed to do. He's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna take it. He's playing on that right now. I'll say it, that weakness of Lando right now, right? That he's a nice guy. He needs to be a dick on the track when need be. I'll say it. I'll say it. So anyway.
Yeah, he needs to be a Richard Norris. Absolutely.
Well, I agree with you. I think Lando learned it. I think it took a while for that to sink in, right? To realize that the situation, and I think he's learned it. And I hope that he'll bring it when the opportunity does arise this year. The other person I'm concerned about with that, wondering if they have learned it too, is Charles, right? Because he's also friends with Max, right? And and from some of the stuff I saw last year, it seemed that he wasn't as steadfast as he needed to be, right? When Max went at him. So I think that's another person that I think maybe will need to reevaluate how they approach Max, right? As if the opportunity does arise.
Yeah, they're all the same generation. They all came in together, right? So
right, yeah.
Well, I'll say this. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think for Charles, it's magnified a bit more because now he has Lewis in the team.
Right.
So yes, it's fine if you're battling Lewis, but he's at Mercedes, you're at Ferrari, Max is at Red Bull, but yeah, Max is still the target.
Right.
So now you're battling Max, but you also
Right.
have Lewis in the team, and if Lewis gets on top of the car and
Right.
starts to, really shine, that's a steeper hill for Charles to get on. And I know one of the things Lewis did when he came in was I don't remember the one if he likes Carbon Industry. I think that's the brakes he likes, and I forget the other one. But anyway, he stipulated that his car had to have that. Right,
Yeah.
he wanted that, and it was just they didn't have to change anything of the calipers, all of that, but it's the actual disc, the brake disc that he wanted. He's used to how the bite is on that and how to modulate that, and he wanted to stick with that. So he was already trying to minimize the amount of things he had to learn. His steering wheel, he's had it reconfigured because for X amount of years at Mercedes, he's had these certain buttons in this place. He had his steering wheel reconfigured, so it's that way. So he doesn't have to relearn all of those functions and possibly make a mistake, So he's and he knows what he wants to do, and he's trying to make sure he minimizes as much of the like the extraneous stuff that he is there.
Stuff he doesn't have to think about. It's just automatic, right? Yeah,
it's automatic.
Makes total sense. Total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because the rumor has it that they changed the driving cockpit position to suit him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the rumor has it. But anyway, all right. The other thing I wanted to get your guys' opinion on was, are we seeing the true talent of the drivers that are in the Formula One field? And are their talents being held back possibly by their equipment, right? And then, what could be done to make it better? Because I've been pondering this. I think I talked about it in one of the episodes last year, and I, for whatever reason, I haven't let go of it. So my take is this, right? I believe that we are not seeing the true talent of all the drivers in the field. I believe that they are being held back by the equipment that they are given to use, right? However, my comeback to that, so that we could see these people, is to then say, hey, for the sprint races, because the sprint races, the teams are concerned about their cars getting damaged. So for sprint races, what they could do is go get a GP2 car, right? And then the F1 could then put stipulation and says you could only change like the damping on the car and let them run the GP2 car for the sprint race, right? So if, push them to shove, they wrap up the GP2 car. It's still not their primary car for the major show. But I think minimizing some of the variables that they can adjust as a team will only bring out the driver's true ability, right? Because I think even now F1 is trying to find a middle ground between bringing in technology, but at the same time trying to level the playing field so we could have more exposure to a larger section of the drivers, right? I'm curious to hear your feedback. I'm going to start off with Ralph this time. Go for it.
Yeah, well, off the top, no, we're not seeing the full potential of all the drivers on the grid. That's for sure. And I say that because I'm concerned about Carlos Sainz going to Williams. Williams is trying to rebuild, and Carlos at Ferrari, I think he does. I'll use the word. I think he deserves a top team to really continue his development and show his quality out there. I don't think he's gonna. I'll be surprised if he's able to do that. I'd be shocked if he even won a race this season, based on the performance of the Williams last year. So yes, it's not. You don't see it. You don't see it. Whether or not they would do that, it would be nice. But is that the purpose of Formula One? That's my question. Is that I don't believe that's the purpose of Formula One. Right? The purpose of Formula One is teams trying to interpret the rules and build a car an engine, and so on, to maximize or exploit any loopholes in those rules to, gain an advantage, right? That's I believe that's the purpose of Formula One. So when it comes to drivers, let's take Fernando. Not a lot of people talk about Fernando. I forgot. Fernando's what, 43, 45? Just to circle back, one of the detractors commented about Lewis's age, and I was like, well, Fernando's older than him. And I guarantee you that if you were to put Fernando in a car that was capable, he'd be a world champion. Again. So that Aston Martin, although he drives the wheels off of it, there's so much more in Fernando that car doesn't give him the opportunity to show. But I think, again, that's the purpose of Formula One. It's almost like an engineering exercise, right? How can we, based on these rules, build a vehicle that's really good? And so I don't think it'll ever happen because of that reason. But I agree with you. No, we're not seeing the full potential of all the drivers on the grid.
So that question could be asked of any sport. Are you seeing the full potential of an NFL player, basketball player, driver from Formula One, NASCAR? There's so many variables that can throw off a team, right? It's Red Bull for the last 3 to 4 years have figured out a way to be better than all the other teams, all the other manufacturers. And Max is a part of that, and the engineers are a part of that, and the pit crew is a part of that. And there's so many variables. So I think Yuki and I think Lando's partner, can't remember his name right now.
Oscar
Piastri, thank you, are excellent drivers. I think the drivers who excel are the ones who can communicate with their engineers well and still perform at a high level. There's so much going on during a race as far as communication, the wheels, coming in the pit, making decisions. As far as pure talent, I'd probably say there's probably 6 or 7 drivers out there. If you put them in the same exact car, they will be within a tenth of a lap time, right? But now the other variables come to play. How well is your engineer? How well is your general manager? How well is your pit crew? As far as how well is your strategy when it comes to tires, right? So I agree. We're not seeing the full potential of any driver at this point. You hope that by 3 or 4 races, there's some synergies there, there's some continuity there, especially with the rookie class that's coming in. But I think you have to be with a team for a couple of years before you figure things out. Just like Max was able to figure things out 4 years ago, and now they're kind of they know what's wrong before they even start a race, right? Max is already telling them what's wrong with the car before the next race versus figuring out what's wrong during the race, right? So, yeah, I agree. We're not seeing the full potential. And even if you were to give everybody the same cars, there's still a lot more variables that can throw everything on.
Got you. I was just trying to find a potential solution, and because part of Formula One is the fact that it's a show, right? It's an entertainment thing, and I just wondered that yes, we still would not be messing with I call them the primetime product that they use, but by just using this version of doing the GP2 cars that are more strictly policed, but for options that you could change, it would then change the entertainment a little and possibly change the view of the audience, about some of the drivers that are in the field that make up the Formula One, experience. And so it's just not because I don't know if you guys remember, but before they had a thing called Race of Champions here in the US, and they brought, the top people from different places within, quasi spec cars, and they raced against each other. Right. So, and we have spec series here, and abroad where, you have it. It's just trying to see, giving those people that may not get the exposure because, as you say, engineering, right, funding, right, things of that nature, those other variables that don't get to showcase their talent fully. It would just be a different way, and at the same time alleviate the concern that I heard last year about the team, and that they have their primetime, equipment that they don't want to get it soiled in order for, because they still have something to do with it. So if they did the GP2 cars, because that's the car right below the F1 cars, and throw the drivers in there for the sprint races, whatever points they get. And I think, it would be a more entertaining show in a way. And it would change the views of people on drivers when they go back to the F1 cars. And maybe it might put more pressure on the manufacturer of the cars then, because if people saw that this driver has this talent that he's doing, and their car is not, when he goes back and drives the F1 car, he's nowhere near, they might start scrutinizing, the guys, the team that put the car together for him. So that was my.
I agree. No, listen, I think it would be interesting, right? I agree with you. It would be something to see, to say, okay, the only variable here is setup, right? That's what you have, and the talent of the driver.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Everything is locked down. Yeah.
It would be very interesting to see. I would love to see that. I just don't. I don't know if they'll ever do it if, funds wise and so forth and yada, yada. But, that's the only thing I'm saying. But yeah, I agree with, no, we're not seeing the full potential of all drivers.
So you think the manufacturers right now are so vastly affecting the races that we're not seeing that during qualifying?
Correct. Correct.
We're not seeing the talent of the drivers during qualifying.
That's my point that I'm taking. Yes, I'm taking that point. Yes, because I can that's why they came out with I believe they came out with the cost cap, right? To limit, because those that have a lot were spending a lot to make their car at get to a certain level, whereas those that don't have a lot don't have anything to spend to get their car to that level. So I think what the rule change where they made it that you spend to so much. Or if you ended up in, like lower down in the field, you got more wind tunnel time, things of that nature. I think Formula One, they're trying to, as I said, they're in my opinion, they're walking into knife's edge, right? Because they're showing that our series is the most technologically advanced racing series in the world, right? However, at the same time, I think they're trying to put on a show for the audience. And because of the gaps between some of the teams as far as financial, right, capabilities, then they're trying to figure out how they can tweak the rules, as to say, well, this area stays the same, but this area you can play with, right, to figure out how to keep the technology and keep the rules to try and even the playing field a little bit more. Whereas I'm saying, no, keep that the way that is, but come down to this one and just let's see raw driver talent. And go from there, and it's still, I think it's something still to ponder to see, what the upside. Well, the upside would be seeing the drivers, but what would the potential downside would be? Because it'd be kind of weird if people then decided, hey, I like the GP2 portion of it opposed to watching Formula One, and then Formula One loses revenue. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a thought process that I think I don't know if anybody's going to pick it up, but that's something I just came up with.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see. But.
All right. Well, I think that we're all done. So I want to say thank you for popping in to what we had to say. And again, as we roll out, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can keep up with all things the fellows. See you later.
Take care, everyone.
Take it easy.